In every boundary you place, you're placing a brick that builds your temple, your castle, your tower. And each brick is made out of your knowledge, out of what you know to be your life and what's best for you and for all around you that you love. And that's why boundaries exist, they're not bullshit. And we do detect them by things like how we feel. When this happened, I felt that way. By the way, for the past month. But when I get to feel people's boundaries, I get to understand a little bit about their structure and what they really are about. Um, so you have built already something there. You've had it for years, even before you came to the school, I think. So it is legit that this vein of yours, this source, this branch of yours has acquired a lot of your magic, infused by it. You can't help it,
Super
right?
interesting is that idea.
That's why I get of they being your students, in a sense.
Seriously serious.
You do alter their state, and maybe you're now more aware of it than you've been before, to the degree that they may have a life altering experience, even if it's small, maybe. Like the bathhouse, I keep thinking again of Spirited Away, where some of them come because they love it. They come to get clean. And some of them come, they really need it. And they think they're just getting a bath. But they're getting a lot more than that. And some of them come because maybe they recognize the radiation somehow. Or they've come to recharge. Yeah. And they've come to be able to use them when they leave. So in that sense, then it makes sense then to tile your floor and to build your bricks that you want around to make that temple, right? One story I have super quick, and maybe it's my younger brother in El Salvador had a restaurant, opened up a restaurant in a certain part of his town, and it started doing well. Families would come around after lunch, especially during dinner time, and they started coming around lunch. The business people that worked, but families with children and stuff afterwards. And his wife would cook the tacos and burritos and stuff. And then he started leaving it open later and started selling alcohol. And then a different crowd started coming in, and very soon, actually, there was even drugs and stuff inside. And the families started not showing up anymore because the people who would show up at night started showing up during the day also, because they figured, let's go get. They just did, and the families left. They didn't come back, so the food started being no longer a thing anymore, and it just became kind of like corrupt, by just without knowing that it would. And that's kind of like something can happen, right? In a sense like this, you shouldn't have to leave depressed, hanging on to all that stuff, right? You should be able to process it, and that's what the bathhouse has once it's working correctly. It doesn't take on all that stuff, right? It knows how to dispose of it very quickly, and everybody's happy. Not everybody. There's a lot of work that you do on your own, by the way, because this is a one person job, pretty much, right? You do everything from the setup to the cleanup, pretty much. Yep. Yeah, beautiful. The Any doorway too, any doorway you designate, you can touch it with an oil of yours or a blessed water or whatever, and it'll last for a month or whatever. You just replenish it later with another drop or
Remember,
whatever when you
everything
need
is
it.
like almost everything's mindset.
I mean, some would argue everything is mindset. The idea, yeah, that's right. And so, one thing that you can do, for example, is if you have a set of clothes that you use for work, but it can be boring. I don't know if you like to be boring or not. But you have a set of clothes, and it's like a uniform, but it doesn't look like a uniform. It's just your clothes. You just pick them, and they're the ones that you use to work, and you just take them off and change them before or after. I mean, before you leave the place, or when you get home, or whatever. It depends on what you have to do. It's no different than being, and you're assigned good clothes too, not raggedy. It's like a little temple of sorts as well. Yeah, and but the idea is that the psyche knows that you've already switched. You don't have to rely on you consciously making the switch. That's kind of like what you were getting at when you're saying, I don't have time for all this because I do so much. And you were being careful because you were thinking to yourself, of course I have time for this. This is what I need to do. Of course I have time for this. What I want to say is that I want it to be like that. I want it to be done quickly and legitimately. Those are one of the ways. Everything you've said is legitimate. You can just recharge and your exit bubble is cool too. You can have more than one. The first doorway, the second doorway, and then entering the car. Boom, done. Now I'm completely out of that space, and I'm in this other world, right? And then you take it from there. Um, the more you do this too, by the way, the very much more it becomes that one temple that we were talking about. Where going to work is a way of worship. It's what I've done, by the way, as you know, and I think that you are on that track or have been when you do things like the resins and the foods that you make, and also the work that you do with people's body and stuff, the healing. All of that is kind of like the temple that you carry with you. And if you had no longer a teacher and a school or even a coven, you would carry that on, and that would still be your temple, and that's probably still what you would be doing. And so it is legitimately that, right? I don't know how you turn it into, like, let's say, a clerk house kava sort of style with your magic precisely. I think you would know more about that than I do, and you definitely have guides for that, right? And you have your teacher and stuff help you in that. But definitely that all of those things will also strengthen your exit there and your entrance there. So that's something to keep in mind for sure. How you exit if you
That
forget about it. No, legitimately too. By the way, this clearing and stuff then is becoming exactly what you are generating and creating. It's part of it, right? It's also almost like manifesting, but by getting rid of a lot of stuff that's been in the way, kind of like creating cobwebs, so to speak. Um, so keep doing the writing. Obviously, write about the homes over there, work, and write about and about how that applies to in a higher sense to the work that you do, and to how it is actually a blessing, you know, to be able to recognize it, so to for it to come that strong. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. And contemplate the idea too then of how you are being a guide, right, to people who show up, not just someone who does the stuff that they think you're doing. um I guess, the work sometimes comes just like that. One can say, like, hey, you have a very peaceful nature about you. Like, when I talk to you, it's super cool. What's going on? What do you do? And I say, I just pray. Like, I pray every day. Nah, for reals, because yeah, I just pray. That's it. And that doesn't mean that I'm their teacher, and that doesn't mean that that's the bulk of my work or my teaching or anything. But because you are a teacher of sorts, and you're also in a school, and you are creating a temple there where you are, then those whom you serve, yeah, they get served all of that. Yeah.